Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope this is working again. We are on week 3 after the rebuild. As you may have noticed, we now have music at the start again. And I'm actually able to record this stream as well, hopefully. So all being well, we will be back to normal tonight. So hello, I hope you're all safe and well. It is time for another live stream. Now, it has been a quiet week, but there are some interesting subjects to talk about. And actually, there's one which I forgot to put in the title, which I just edited in. And it is around DJI. We're going to talk about a very odd recording quirk in O3 that I came across and actually forgot about until I started looking at some more recent footage. We're going to talk about, have DJI basically given up on O3 because there hasn't been updates for a while, and it's an interesting subject because there has been people complaining about Avatar HD. Where is the new firmware? Well, if we look at Avatar, there's been far more updates than we've had for DJI. Oh, I've got an error on YouTube. I forgot to change that. It's whinging about the keyframes. I'll fix that next week. I can't change that now. We're going to talk about the new transparent version of the Boxer, which I love. And this is, okay, it's hard not to say they've copied what TBS did because the radio is very similar. However, they've also now released a transparent cased version. And I just want to talk a little bit about, have we reached the peak in FPV? I'm going to undo my top because I'm getting warm and there's a cup of tea on its way as well. In fact, I'm going to take my jacket off. But we're also going to talk about, have we reached the peak? Because this time last year was a bonkers period in FPV. We had the release of Avatar HD, HDZero was coming on, and we had all of the rumors of DJI. And if we think about where we are at a year later, we now have the Avatar HD system, we now have DJI O3, and I'm starting to see interesting things. Oh, my cup of tea has arrived. Let me just grab it. That's my cup of tea. We're starting to see interesting things. You know, many YouTube channels are seeing a drop in views. I'm one of them, one of many. And you're starting to see people do things like reviews of electric scooters, portable power stations. Actually, I've done a few reviews on portable power stations, but that's for my own self-interest because I like them. However, we are starting to see people diversify, and don't worry, you're not going to see me starting to review Wi-Fi adapters or anything like that. And whilst you might see a little bit of mixed content, we are starting to see, I think, the peak fall a little bit in FPV. And whilst there is one channel that absolutely beats the trend, and there's actually more than one. You've got a few channels that beat the trend, Bot Grinder, JB, and they're very different channels as well. You are starting to see things fall off a little bit, and it's quite interesting. And we want to talk a little bit about that as well. And actually, you know, what does it mean? Does it mean that the interest in FPV is waning? The new interest in FPV, and actually I've seen some really interesting things looking at people's videos. And, you know, I come across a channel earlier which is about the same size as me, and he put a video up 2 weeks ago and he's like at 50,000 views. And what he's done is a very nice 7-inch build from start to finish, and that has had huge views compared to, say, a video talking about, you know, a new flight controller or something like that. So it does show that the interest is moving around. And in my opinion, actually, what it sometimes shows is the interest from the existing community is falling off, but there's still interest there for the new community. And, you know, if we look at what Pavel has done, Pavel has changed his channel name. And don't worry, I'm not turning into FPV University. I will continue to do what I do, whether it's big views or small views. But it is interesting that there has been a change in the viewerships. around the stuff in YouTube. And look, my channel is interesting because I'm niche. And with niche comes low numbers traditionally, but we gained a lot of traction when very specific subjects became very popular, like digital FPV. And actually, I am starting to think that things like digital FPV, people are over it now. I'm not necessarily seeing the interest that was there before. And we'll talk a bit about that too. Now, as always, I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. What's up's got in really early with the super chat. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate the £5 super chat. Super chats are welcome. They're not needed for me to answer a question, and we will answer any questions you might have as well later on in the video. Hey, Gary, how are you? I was away last week. YouTube doesn't look the same for me. It doesn't. It's doing weird stuff. So, hello to everyone in the chat. I hope you are all safe and well. Let me just get here and catch up on it. Hello, Anthony. Thank you. Sounds good. Cool Cat. How are you, my friend? All the mod cons. Evening. So what's up? Thank you. Evening. Hello. Chris Quad. Getting hot in here. It's getting hot everywhere now. Yeah, last week the algorithms have been tracked. Yeah, and I have seen a marked drop. Now, you may have noticed on the channel, I haven't released a lot of content in the last couple of weeks, and that's because I've been very busy in my personal life. But also, I don't want to be crapping out content for the sake of it. There is videos coming on specific subjects, and actually, I have plans for a couple of specific videos, which I haven't been able to start yet. And actually, what happens is you get sort of sent something to talk about, which then puts you back on the stuff that you want to do. And there is some review stuff coming up. Nothing major, you know, don't expect, you know, there's no new digital FPV systems around the corner, but there are little product reviews coming up. And again, that is the problem with product reviews. It can almost take you away from having the time to do the stuff that you want to talk about on the channel. But it is interesting. Now, let me just get rid of the ad option. I'm going to take a sip of my tea, and before we start. Now, the first subject I want to talk about, and let me go wide. The first subject I want to talk about is DJI. Now, there's two subjects here because there's a really weird quirk in DJI O3 that I remember coming across, but I don't actually remember talking about. And this one's got sort of lost, and I want to dig it back up again because I'm going to put this out as a separate video, and that is the fact that whilst DJI O3 works with both the Goggles 2, which is here, and the Goggles V2, we know there are differences in the way the radio link works as a result of that. For instance, when using it with the Goggles V2s, you've got an 810p link. When using it with the Goggles 2, you've got a 1080p link. And there are differences between the two, like you can't record the OSD image on this one, and it behaves differently. However, there is also one frankly strange quirk with regards to recording on the O3 ear unit. And that is, when you are recording on the O3 ear unit, whether that be the internal storage or SD card, when using the system with the Goggles 2, it records in H.264. However, when recording on the ear unit with the Goggles V2s, the codec it uses is H.265. Now, this is a frankly bizarre situation because it's actually opposite to what we would have expected, because DJI promote that the O3 system uses H.265, and the assumption with that has always been that it will use H.265 or HEVC with the Goggles 2 on that live view feed, and it would make sense that as a result of that, it would record in H.265. But it doesn't. When using with the Goggles 2, it records in H.264. Now, I was just doing some tests on this before we went live, and it is a frankly bizarre situation that I don't fully understand myself, of why the ear unit would choose a different codec compared to the goggles. It does make sense that it would use H.265 with the Goggles 2, but not the order they're doing it in. Now, what we'll do is we'll actually test this live to show you. Just taking a sip of my tea. Because it is bizarre, and I don't fully understand this. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the SD card and put it in a Goggles 2 first of all, and we'll have a look at the bit rates as well, because this is a really weird situation. It really is. So we've got a battery. We're going to just power up my Goggles 2 first of all. And then what I'll do is format the SD card, because I did record something on it just now. Actually, we'll do the V2s first. I tell you why. Because it's already bound to the V2s. I did the V2 test just now. So we'll do the V2s first, because it's actually already bound to that. So it makes sense to start with that one. Okay, so we're going to power up the V2 goggles. And if I go to the overhead, we've got an O3 air unit on a flight controller. So I'm just going to find a battery. It was here next to me like 30 seconds ago. Okay, we'll use this 4S. Okay. So we're just going to power up the O3 air unit. The SD card, I put the SD card in the goggles, not the air unit. What a tool. We don't need the SD card in the goggles. We want the SD card in the air unit. Okay. So what we're going to do is that should connect. It is connected. I am just going to format that SD card so there's no chance of there being an error here. Camera settings. Why won't it let me format? That's weird. Why won't it let me format? Oh, my recording. Yeah. Oops, there we go. I hit recording by accident. Okay, so format aircraft SD card. Confirm. So I'm just formatting it so we've got a fresh start. Okay, we have. So I'm going to turn the camera around so it looks at me. I can see me now, and we'll play this back in a minute on the PC. And I'm now going to hit record. So we're going to let it record for maybe 20, 30 seconds just to show what it's doing. Now, I did already turn off low power mode in this just to make sure I had. But it's strange. It's a real bizarre issue. So we're recording currently 20 seconds. We'll get to 30 seconds, something like this. And then we'll hop over and then take a look at what it does on the goggles too. And it's just a bizarre thing that I can't get my head around. It just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. Okay, so that's 30 seconds of footage. All done, all happy. So that's the V2's done. We don't need the goggle side for that. We're just going to power down the air unit a minute, just so it doesn't overheat while I swap batteries. We'll then swap over to goggles 2. Power them up, and then we'll just need to rebind. Okay, let's... I think I'll probably get the fan on that. It's beginning to cook. We know what O3 is like. It gets hot very, very quickly. So we're just going to get the cooling fan running, and we're going to plug in. There we go. So again, if I just go to the overhead, we've just got a LiPo flight controller connected. Nice and simple. Nothing crazy here at all. So we're just going to hit the binding button on the goggles 2. There we go. Just rebound. Now, what I'm going to do, just to make sure everything is correct, I'm going to power down the O3 and power it back up, just so that there's no quirks or anything as a result of binding and things like that. Here we go. Right. Ow. It's my fingers. Here we go. We've got airflow on that now. Okay, so We'll just wait for that to power up. It's just connected. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is exactly the same, is record on the goggles too. So we're going to pull down from the top, hit record, and we'll let that run a second, and then we'll go and have a look at the files. Sam FPV question: Is the Radiomaster 2-watt module worth it? Moving from Crossfire, I'm just thinking of trying to save some weight on my Flywheel Explorer ELRS as the same antenna as smaller than Express RS. The Ranger is a big module, but it's a good module. As for 1 watt versus 2 watts, I don't know. Okay, just looking down at the chat a minute. Okay, so that's recorded for nearly a minute. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is power down. Take the SD card off, take the fan off before we chew ourselves up. And now we'll take a look at these files. And this is where it gets really interesting. So we're going to plug in and we're going to have a look at what this looks. Okay, so if we go to the desktop and we look at the SD card, here we go. Now we've got 2 files. Remember, the first file is the goggles V2s. So if we just open that up, you can see there that we're testing on the goggles V2. So if we go to codec information, you can now see that we're recording in 4K, 30 frames a second. And the codec, so if we just play, the codec is H.265. Statistics, bitrate is 60 megabits a second, 59, 60. Yeah, 60 megabits a second, basically, looking at that. Yeah, 60. Yeah, about 60. It's variable a little bit, but that looks about 60. So H.265, 60 megabits a second. If we now look at the goggles 2, again, now as I've said, you can see it is H.264. 29 frames a second, 4K. And the statistics are giving us, yeah, higher bit rate on the goggles 2. 80 megabits a second. Yeah, 82, 84 on the input bit rate. Still not as high as DJI said it will go, but we don't have a lot going on here. So, what is clear is when recording with the goggles V2s, you're getting H.265, but about 60 megabits a second. When recording with the goggles 2, you're getting H.264 and about 80 megabits a second at the moment. But that's in the kind of image that I've got. Really weird. Really, really weird behavior that I just can't explain. I just cannot explain at all. I was not expecting that. I'll be honest with you. How this affects people, in the end, it isn't major, but I would love an understanding of why we have a different codec when you're recording between different sets of goggles. I would love to understand that. Possible reasons why, about the only thing I can think of, about the only real reason could be if you didn't have enough onboard processing to do H.265 and a 1080p live feed. So on the goggles 2, DJI dropped the recording to H.264 and yeah, drop the recording to H.264, but use the higher bit rate for the live view. That's about the only thing I can think of. But it is bizarre. It is very, very bizarre. And it's something else I want to look into a bit more. But I just thought I'd share it. Now, we will come on to DJI in a minute, abandon it. Can you test this theory? Not really. It's either that. They're either doing it for that reason or they're not. There's just no real way to test it. There's just no way. They're doing it, so the question then becomes is why are they doing it? The setup of the video setup on O3 is completely all over the place. I'm just going to plug this battery in because it's flat. There we go. It really is all over the place. I've just been exploring HDZero for long range. It's definitely interesting. I was flying HDZero myself today. Found some dead pixels on my goggles too. Don't know what to do. Reach out to DJI and see what they say. Bizarre is the different frame size, width, and height of the image. They do very weird stuff. Very weird stuff on the recording options on O3. What do you think? Are dead pixels in the goggles too a cause for concern? No, look, there are always dead pixels in displays. What I would say is speak to DJI and see what they say. They may swap the goggle for you. They're pretty good. It's not anything I'd be concerned about. It happens, but they'll send you a new set. Just reading up a minute on the chat. Hello, Expander. Yeah, Gyroflow will tell you the encoding as well, Brandon Bean said. Yeah, I tend to use a thing. Just catching down. Almac FPV, is that DigiView wide FPV? None. I was simply showing recorded footage. Did you set... I didn't think you could set the recording type on O3. Have I missed something here? I didn't think you could set the recording type in the goggles too for O3. I thought the recording type was fixed. Am I forgetting something here? I didn't think there was a setting on O3. I didn't think there was. Because it wasn't there on the Avata. I thought that was one of the quirks of it. I'm sure 10-bit mode will have HVEC, but that sucks to fly in. Yeah. Let's just have a look, shall we, with the goggles too, just to see. Just power them on. That battery is really flat. Let's power up. There we go. We'll just wait. I didn't think there was, but let's just double check just in case I've missed something. Okay, we're connected. Okay, so from the recording options on the bottom, there is no option for the mode type. No, there's nothing there. If we go into camera settings, quality Advanced camera settings. No, no option. Nothing at all. Now, interesting. Someone said earlier about, should we just try what happens in 2S battery? I can't remember what the lowest voltage was on O3. Should we try decini like? Oh man, that looks horrific. Is it 10-bit in decini like? I can't. I think it's 10-bit in decini like, isn't it? Yeah. I'm just recording in decini like. Yeah, I think that's where they buried it. There's no separate option for it. That'll do. We don't need long. We'll just have a look at this and then we'll move on. Ow, that is hot. I believe the lowest voltage of O3 is 7 off the top of my head, so it should work on 2S. Fine. Okay, let's just have a look on the desktop. So back into the SD card. So it'll be the third file. Tools, codec information. Well, hey, we have H.265. Right, really. Just really, DJI. What's the bit rate? Let's have a look, shall we? And the bit rate has dropped. Interesting. So we get H.265 in decini like. It really is all over the place, the way they've got O3 set up. It really is all over the place. The codecs, the differences, it just makes no sense to anyone. It really doesn't. Okay, catching up on the chat. Isn't H.265 more efficient, more quality for the same bit rate? Yeah, H.265 is a better codec overall for 4K. I'm not going to go into the depths of this because we'll be here for about 10 hours, but H.264 was only ever derived in a 1080p world. The codec and the algorithm is designed for 1080p footage, the size of the macro blocks and the way it breaks the image down. It's not to say you can't record higher, but it's just not optimized. Whereas H.265 was optimized for 4K onwards. So in theory, H.265 should do a better job. Ignore the amount of space a minute. It should be better. Even the overall compression behavior should be better. Ignore the space saving, but the way it breaks up the image, you should get less moire, you should get less artifacts, less jagged edges. It should do a better job with higher resolution footage. Period. It should be. It does offer up to about 40% data rate saving, but that's up to, and real world is a bit different. But the real important bit isn't the data rate saving. The really important bit is how it breaks up the image. Because remember, compression is about taking an image, breaking it apart, using an algorithm to send bits of it, but not all of it, and what bits to send and what bits to chop up. And it's got much better overall behavior with the. It's got variable macro blocks for starters, which you don't have on H.264. Very complex situation, but it's just better in every way. Should be. But what is interesting, actually, if you look at most of the high-end mirrorless cameras, most are still recording in H.264. So as good as H.265 is, and they all offer H.265, you'll find a lot of the high-end mirrorless cameras are still using H.264, even at 5 and 6K resolutions. So it just shows that H.264 is still very, very capable. You can't beat bitrate. 400 megabits at H.264. It's the bee's knees. ProRes RAW. Yeah, but most of the onboard recording is all done on H.264 still. Not every computer will edit H.265. No. Well, what you don't have is hardware decoding on board for H.265. No, the latency in digital is simply because of the way the image is sent. There's pipeline delay in digital. Yeah, high end is thing, and even the mirrorless, Louis. Yeah, but you know, if we look at the Sonys and everything, you know, the Panasonics, the Sonys, they're all still pushing most stuff out in H.264. Yeah, that's a very good point. If H.265 was open source, it would be more widely used. Yeah, that's a very good point. Even the iPhones use it. Yeah, they use HEVC, or you have the option for it. But it's interesting how H.264 just hasn't gone away. It really hasn't. You know, H.265 did not create the end of H.264 like many, many people thought it would. Yeah, with digital, okay, so latency in digital is all in the processing and the pipeline. So it takes no longer to send the image across the airwaves. It's what you do with it on either side. What, you know, look, it's really simple. You're transmitting more data. Therefore, it takes up more space. Therefore, there's a delay there. But also, the processing of that data has an effect. Yeah, you might be that. I did turn off low power mode, but it could be because it's not armed as well. Yeah, you could be that. Infinity drones, it actually could be that. It doesn't affect the codec, but it could be affecting the bitrate. And remember, there isn't a lot of movement here on the bench either. Did I see Ken Heron's Rid last vid? No, I haven't. That's actually an interesting subject. I'll move on to that now. Quickly, before I finish up on DJI. So, DJI, we know this thing on this. Now, the next question is, have DJI abandoned O3? And what I mean by that is, are we going to see any more updates? And the answer to that is, I don't know. What I thought was interesting, though, there were people talking on the Avatar Facebook group just going, well, if they don't release new firmware soon, I'm going to move to DJI. And I'm sitting here thinking, because they're not releasing updates, you're going to move to a system that's had even less updates than the system you've got. What is interesting is the amount of people who seem to think that there's a magical fix coming for some of the behaviors of Avatar HD. Specifically, people saying, I want better penetration. Look, the laws of physics apply on all digital systems. There is a cliff. There is no getting past that cliff. When the data gets below a certain point, it is going to fall off. And whilst, yes, O3 does a better job, you're not going to see Avatar get up with the likes of analog. It's just not going to happen. It's good, it's decent, but it's not perfect. But the real next question is, are we going to see DJI fix the many issues that we've had in O3 that still stand today? And I talked about these in a video, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure we will. I am not sure we'll see any real noise from DJI now on their FPV systems for a while. I think O3 will just be as it is now, and it'll tick along for the next 3 or 4 years. They might push out the odd update here and there to do something, but I'm not expecting anything anytime soon. I don't think it's abandoned, but what I don't think it really is a product that DJI is really pushing. And you can see that. Look, DJI are putting no marketing effort that I've seen into O3 at all, or FPV. All of their marketing effort is going into their consumer drones, not this stuff. I think, obviously, there's a lot of talk of a Mavic Air 3 and maybe a Mini 4 as well. And I think that's where we're going to see a lot of the push now. But we've also seen the river of money from DJI stop flowing, and many creators are no longer being funded. Oh, God. Sorry about that. Okay, so next subject, we'll move on to. Ram Donko asked about, did I see Ken Herring's video on RID? No, I haven't. Now, I've had a load of people ask about why I haven't really discussed RID. And I'll be honest, it's not a subject I really feel the need to touch on. I was talking about remote ID 2 years ago with Gary, with Bruce. You know, we were on this like years and years ago when it was big in the UK, and obviously it's a big thing in the US. Right now, I don't really know what there is to say on it. For me, there's no point talking about it. It's coming. You either comply or you don't. That's it. It's like tax on your car, a license on your car. I don't really think there's that much that can be discussed. I have an interest in talking about the hardware when it arrives and the integration of that into quads. But as for the political subject of it, it's over. It's happening. There's nothing anyone can do. You've got to accept it or you don't. Make your decision. Do what you want. Move on with your life. It's too late in the day to change this. And look, if we look in the UK, it's been buried. It was starting in the UK and the government have just buried it. It's gone. Probably won't be here for another 2 years plus. It is what it is. I'm not going to lose any sleep about it. Video would probably get lots of views, but what's the point? Look, Bruce has been banging the RID drum for many years. And he's, Bruce is probably, you could argue, dedicated 3 or 4 years of his life to shouting and screaming about it. And I think there's been a lot of good work done. I think there's been a lot of comments, but it is what it is now. The government will do what they feel they want to do. UK fast-tracking it here for next year. Yeah, it'll come when it comes. People will make a cheer. I just don't... I think Bot Grinders put a video out. I haven't been catching up on much the last couple of weeks. I've been very much in my own world. I could put a video out saying how I hate remote ID. I could do it tomorrow. I was asked by the FPV Freedom Coalition to put together something, and I did, and I shared it. I don't even think, did they ever publish them? GMI, yeah, but we talked about this years ago. There are videos on my channel, SUAS News, Gary, me. We were screaming about this years ago. I'll be honest, I'm over it now because I've been talking about this for so long. It's like, I know it's just hit the FPV world, but it's like we were screaming about this. It's 3 years ago, maybe. It's like a lot. Gary, are you still here? When were we started on this? It was so long ago. And it's like, there's a point where you get, it's like screaming about Gatwick. Yeah, Louis is still here. It is what it is now. And look, I think everyone, just make a choice. Comply or don't comply. Just like you do with speed limits. Comply or don't comply. Make your choice. Take your risk. Take the punishment. End of. That's what this... Look, we all know this is not about safety. We all know it's about data collection. We all know it's about control. So each person just needs to make a decision themselves. And look, there are great news channels like Sean talks about it a lot, and that's great because that is really what Sean does. He is educating people on it with like the news and that stuff. That's not my kind of content. And I did make a video about the FPV for the FPV Freedom Coalition. I don't know, has this ever gone out? I don't know. Blunty reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested in doing something. I think it was Blunty. I don't know. Well, someone did. And I said, yeah, I'll put something together. And I shared it. But I don't know, did it ever get released? Because it was about writing a letter to your congressman. It's just like anything in life. You just got to do what you feel is right. If we sat here and went, this will save tens of thousands of lives, I'd be banging a drum on it all day long. We know that's not going to happen. So what we're going to do is, we know this is a license plate for the sky. We will all make the decision that we feel is right. Run a spoofing unit on the regular. But there is a huge amount of interest in this subject. And look, perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps I'm being an idiot by not making content on this. Perhaps it's an easy win to some views. I don't make content for views. If people want my opinion on RID, it's going to happen whether we like it or not. There are elements of it I fundamentally disagree with, specifically the fact that it will transmit the location of the remote pilot, i.e. the takeoff location, and that data will be open to anyone. Fundamentally, I don't actually have a problem with an encrypted remote ID system which is only accessible by the authorities. That I don't have an issue with. What I have a fundamental issue with is the pilot's location being transmitted, because that will lead to people potentially getting beaten up, their gear robbed, and issues out in the field. And that has always been my issue with it. Personally, I don't have an issue with the aircraft transmitting its location. I don't have a problem with that. And if I wanted to do something that I didn't want the aircraft to transmit its location on, I'd use an aircraft that didn't transmit its location. It's that simple. But in the end, I think it's going to happen. In the end, I think I think it'll fade away. Do you know what my honest truth is? I think it will come in, it'll get bandied around for a while, and it'll become like a dog license. It'll become like speeding, and it'll just be that'll be it. Do you know what I mean? You know, there is no way in hell the authorities are going to be able to figure it out. I think it's a subject that is definitely gaining a lot of interest. And you know what I'll do? Here's what I will do. I am going to cut this segment and put it out as a separate on the channel. And that will be my remote ID thing. I fundamentally don't agree with the transmission of the pilot's location. I don't personally have an issue with the aircraft transmitting. I think each person will need to make the decision themselves if they're going to comply with the rules or not. What you can't do is stick your head in the sand and pretend it's not going to happen. It is happening. No amount of shouting and screaming is going to change that. The governments will do what they do. Let them do it. Let them do whatever they want. Will DJI update their firmware to transmit? Very possibly. And no one can blame them for that. DJI will do whatever they are compelled to do in law. So, if it becomes mandatory that DJI O3 needs to transmit, then it will transmit. Will Avatar do that? I don't know. Chinese company probably won't bother. Then you got a choice. Buy one, don't buy the other. What you can't do is worry about it. Will potentially, yes. GMI has asked the question, does DJI O3 transmit RID already? We cannot, with absolute fact, answer that question. The Avata does RID, O3 doesn't appear to. But that doesn't mean that O3 isn't transmitting blank packets, because you're not going to see this stuff easily. Isn't DJI a Chinese company? Yes, DJI is a Chinese company, but they are a global company. So DJI will always do whatever they're required to do to comply with the law. Smaller companies in FPV may not. So that's where you might see this, like Walksnail don't. DJI may. DJI will do whatever the law compels them to do. Now, would DJI instigate a form of remote ID on O3 anyway? Potentially, yes. They may potentially do it. Who knows? They will do what they will do. It's very easy to do, especially if there's GPS. You know, they could release a GPS module that you plug in to the USB port on the side of O3. They could do anything. Will they, though? That's another question. Could we see O3? Could we see a whole new FPV system? Yes. To be honest, there's as much chance as DJI just releasing an O4 system with RID built in as there is updating the existing one. Yeah, you know, DJI is a big entity and will do whatever they feel is right. And there are a lot of people who would want RID in O3 as well, because there's a lot of commercial users use O3 and they might want that RID option. Camus, can use a software-defined radio for video transmission. That is what O3 is. O3 is an SDR. Walksnail is the future for many. I think it's a very interesting FPV system. It's certainly not perfect. You know, the more I've flown it, you sort of go, oh, that's horrible. It's certainly not O3. My favourite system to fly is O3. Genuinely, O3 is just the nicest. It's not the best, but it's the nicest. Melwin Anthony, what video transmission systems are compatible with V2 goggles? I'm confused about it. Right. So, on the V2 goggles, you can use the DJI Digital FPV Air Unit, which is this thing. Big square silver block. You can use the Codec Vista Runcam Link. This thing. Actually, if I put that there and put that there and do that. No, I don't. I want to do that. You can use this Air Unit, which is the DJI FPV Air Unit. You can use a Vista. And you can use the O3. You can use all three of these with the goggles version 2. There are quirks. I do have a video on it. There's a lot of quirks, but you can use all of these. But there are different features between them, but they all work. Dan, if the V2 goggles are the same as the V1 goggles for FPV use, why buy the V2s? They're not the same. The V1s cannot work with the O3 Air Unit. The V1s cannot work with the DJI FPV drone. The V1s cannot work with the DJI Avata. The V1s can only work with the DJI FPV Air Unit and the Codec Vista or stroke Runcam Link. Any of them get audio with the V2? Only the DJI Air Unit. Only this one has audio. Yes, the V1 was the beta test, and I beta tested it. My V1 goggles are pre-release. My V1s are officially pre-release. Okay, so before we move on to Q&A in a minute, next thing I want to quickly talk about is this thing. For those who don't know what this is a Radiomaster Boxer. Let me just move this stuff. For those who don't know, this is by far my favorite radio. We just power it on. This radio is just phenomenal in almost every way. However, Radiomaster have released a slightly updated version, and it's the same spec, it's the same overall features, apart from it has a clear casing. Now, they are not the first to do this. Let's be clear. It's basically a copy of what TBS did with the Mambo. However, it's really good to see. I think it looks great. I'm really looking forward to what people do with these, because you can paint these on the inside, and I've seen some real nice work done on these radios when painted. So when you paint the shell from the inside, it gives a real nice effect, a really, really nice effect on the radio. Now, at this moment in time, Radiomaster are not selling the shells separately, unfortunately. They are only selling the whole radio with a clear shell. However, hopefully it won't be long before the shells are available. I'd like to see it myself, but they have released it, and they do show it. Like if we go to the home page, I think they had a view of it there with LEDs in as well. Look, you can see that some people are going to put LEDs inside. It's going to look real nice with the LED rings like I've got here in 2, especially on the HDZero ones. These LED rings just look absolutely phenomenal on the HDZero ones, just the way the light reflects off them. And there might be a video coming on this in the very near future, because it's not quite as straightforward install as you might think. There are some things you need to do with the Boxer specifically, but it's really good to see. And I think that clear shell is, people are going to go a long way on that. You know, if we go on controllers, you've got the Boxer transparent version, 159. Is it the same price? No, it's actually a little bit dearer, is it? It's a little bit dearer for the clear one. Okay. 159 versus 139. But it does look very, very nice. And they have a video. If we just... I think they show it here. There it is. They had some nice images. I don't know if they're going to show them in this. I need to mute the music. I don't know how much they're going to show in this video. Mini color screen now. Yeah, a lot of people have said about a mini color screen. I'm not a fan of it transparent without being painted. I think for me, it being transparent is about having, you know, doing a custom paint job. That's what I think it's about for me, is being able to do this. And there has been some amazing things done on the Boxer. You can see here, yeah, they're showing people spraying the inside there. And it's going to allow for some really nice effects. It really will. So, it is available, but we can't get the shells yet, unfortunately. Boxer with a mini color screen would be on fire. Yeah, a lot of people would love a color screen. I'm not against the screen that's on it. You know, if I go to mine, it's okay. I got no problems with that screen. I'm more than happy with it. I don't look at it. I don't use it. The screen really does not get used. This one obviously has been upgraded with the HDZero ones. We've now got the LED light rings in there as well, which just look phenomenal. It really does. Someone's just asked, do I have a TX16 to compare the size against? Like this. There you go. So if you wanted to see the two side by side, it is phenomenally different in size. That gives you an idea. It's basically Mambo size. For me, it's just perfect. How tall are the sticks? Well, they're adjustable on this, so they're not as tall as they are on this. See, the recess in this is not as far down as it is in this, and this is even lower with the LED rings on. Yeah, there's a lot of empty space in the TX16. It's a very big radio. The TX16, The TX16 is a nice radio, but this is a Mark 1. I don't have a Mark 2. It's a very big radio, but when you look at these two side by side, like, you know, for me, the Mambo is just perfect. Yeah, metal face would be lovely. Yeah, a metal faceplate would be absolutely lovely on this radio. And the LED rings just look phenomenal. But there is a video coming on the LED rings because it's not quite as straightforward. It's a good radio. It really is a good radio. Okay. Now, before we move on to just a bit of Q&A, and I'm not going to do it too long tonight, I just want to talk a bit about, have we sort of reached the peak in FPV? Because we are starting to see channels calm down a little bit, and I think you're starting to see the interest in digital systems wane and people not be quite so interested. Is it as the result of cost? Is it as a result of stagnation? Is it because people have got everything they need? I don't know. And I don't even know what I feel is exciting around the corner. We had so much in 2022. If we look at 2022 and that early 2023, we had the Boxer. We had all of the Express ELRS radios flood through. We had 2 new digital FPV systems, as well as a major upgrade on the 3rd digital FPV system. Betaflight has just got really good out the box. Tuning is no longer what it was. You know, look, PID tuning is no longer even a thing. I'll be honest. I don't know. I basically barely PID tune anymore. I get a quad, I install it, I move the sliders up a little bit, and it flies good enough for me. I think it's hard to say. Everything is sort of getting... It's still real for 8-inch and above, yeah, I can imagine. 5-inch it isn't needed, yeah. I think it's hard to see what's exciting around the corner. It really is hard to see what's exciting. And there are some products I'm really interested in seeing, which I might have on the channel in the near future. But I don't know. I think we may be beginning to see a bit of a plateau in FPV a little bit. And and the question, you know, what is it people want to see? Are people interested as much in 5-inch quads anymore? Or is it now about 8-inch? I'm seeing a lot of interest in big quads. A lot of interest in big quads. My last build, 8x6, yeah. You don't need more than 5 inches. Yes. And I think you are starting to see 3 inches of fun. I was flying a 3-inch today, 3.5. Bigger. Everyone seems to be going bigger. Long range and bigger. And it is interesting. It really... Yeah, I saw the 8S video. I'm not sure how that will catch on. What we are going to see is quite a substantial increase in regulations. A certain event in Europe is showing what off-the-shelf quads can do. Yeah, that's for sure. 8S is too expensive. Yeah, I don't see 8S taking off. 8S is... I think it's cool, but it's a lot of voltage. 12S. Yeah, let's go 2 6s. Let's go all the way. But yeah, it is interesting, isn't it, when you look at it? I like to see an evolution to smaller builds, maybe 3 and 4 inches. Bigger quads. I don't know what you mean. 8-inch indoors, no rid needed. Yeah, so I don't know. It is interesting what we're going to see happen. And look, you know, you're starting to see channels diversifying the drone side of things. Hasn't really hit FPV, but look, the DJI magic money, especially in the camera drone world, has stopped, and you're getting channels now reviewing things like Wi-Fi adapters and things like that. And look, my intention is, regardless of the views, to try and stick to whatever I do. That's for sure. You're going to see a bit of varied content. There is another power station video coming up because I'm interested in power stations. I'm using them a lot right now, and I think they are relevant to FPV. And I've got this one with the solar panels, which actually I really like. The Power Nest ones, they have 120-watt solar panels available for them as too, and it's very, very cool. There is going to be a video on a handheld gimbal because I haven't reviewed a gimbal for 3 years, and I wanted to do one. But we're still an FPV channel, and there's still lots of good, solid content to come. But I'm just intrigued. What do people want? What, you know, I've noticed the niche stuff is not interesting people quite as much. And it is interesting to see. Bigger voltage, less current, win-win. Yes, that's for sure. Until it goes on fire. We need the Express ELRS guys to develop a digital FPV system that you can put in a Whoop. That would be awesome. I want Walksnail goggles with AV in. Yeah, it's probably not going to happen, but it would be cool. Would any of you good fellas have a good tune for Alpha? No, I don't, because mine still flies like junk. Got to be more RGB LED, right? Oh, yeah, there's a video coming on that. I want TBS to make a comeback. Yeah, we don't know what's going on with TBS. Which bind and fly would you suggest for the same? V2 without O3. Melwin, the two bind and flies I really like at the moment in 5-inch is the Nazgul, and I actually really like the Speedy Bee Master 5 version 2 bind and fly. It isn't built from the greatest quality components, and what I mean by that is you're using the Eco 2 motors. But as a filming O3 quad, it flies really well. Really, really well. The Nazgul is really nice. The only problem with the Nazgul is there's a lot of crap on it you can break that you're going to have to buy from iFlight. All of those side panels are really nice, but it's all very high-end. And if you break that, you're going to be left with a thing. What I liked about the Master 5 version 2 HD bind and fly was it's a quad. There's no bells and whistles here. There's nothing unnecessary here. It's just a nice quad. It's just a nice quad. But I'll be honest, you will not have a problem with either of them. Either of those quads are fantastic. They are both really, really good. I just think someone posted the other day when they said my Nazgul doesn't look like it's been used. And I said it hasn't been used that much, or at least I don't fly it in situations where I could damage the Nazgul because it's just a lot of work to put it right. To be honest, I don't push the bind and flies because I've got my self builds that I use for smashing around the field. So I don't tend to break them. I tend to keep them fairly tidy because I actually, what I like about the bind and flies is they're very good for my testing quads for systems. They're built, they're working, they're ready to go. And I try not to batter them up too much. No, Eric Doyle, it does recess, but I just extended the sticks a little bit. That's all I did, and it was fine. Just reading the chat. But yeah, you're not going to go far wrong with an Nazgul. I don't understand this work thing with regards to Nazgul. It's about 2 minutes. Yes, But if you snap the LEDs on the side, for instance, to get all of those LED panels off, it's not the lid that's easy to do. You can't get in there with the LED panels on. So to get the LED panels off, you've then got to faff around with that little bit of wiring at the front. It's not hard, but it's a lot more work than a traditional open frame quad. So if you wanted to swap out the flight stack on the Nazgul, it's a complete teardown. Whereas on the Speedy B, it's all at the sides. There's more protection on the Nazgul, but that comes with more work. HDZero freezing while I'm flying. It's just more work than it is on a standard quad. That's the difference. It's just, you know, on when you tear the V2 down, you got little ribbon cables in there. I don't feel it's a basher quad. HDZero freezing while I'm in flight is also frustrating. HDZero shouldn't be freezing in flight. It's a great quad though, the Nazgul. The Nazgul is phenomenal. It's a good quad. Yeah, HDZero crashing is unusual. It would hint something's wrong. After ham hack, worst range, any ideas? Setup. Make sure that when you arm, it starts recording. Do you have the battery voltage in the bottom corner? Showing the battery voltage on the air unit side. I have a video on what to check for issues on O3. It goes through a lot of stuff. It's worth a look. I can't actually remember. DJI O3 I have a video. The complete O3 guide, okay, is called, it's this one here, the complete DJI O3 guide. This video, we cover like everything in this video. Complete setup, diagnostics, and troubleshooting guide. This video goes over everything. Absolutely everything. It really does. Look how many of my videos come up with DJI O3. Look at that. Look. I searched for DJI O3 trouble. Mine. That's quite amusing. Yeah, there's a lot in that video. Nothing but vibrations. Hang time FPV. I found the Walksnail Pro HD camera does not work in the Cinelog 35. Nothing but vibrations in the FPV image. Weird. That's really weird. Seagulls from Nemo. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, please do put it in the chat and I will try and answer them. We'll do a Q&A for about 5 minutes, maybe a bit longer. Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate that. 11-inch for the win. I'm really tempted to do a big build. I was looking at some 10 and 11-inch quads, and I'm really tempted to do a big build. Now, I'm going to do a quick bit of shilling while I'm waiting for any questions to come in. The super chats are welcome, but are not necessary for questions. If you don't know, I do have a Patreon. Please do consider checking it out. The link's in the description. I am tempted to do... Do I think they're launching Avatar Goggles V2 soon? I'm not aware of anything coming. No. What is my favourite biscuit? Chocolate digestive by the bucket load, followed by a Jaffa cake. Sub 250 with an iNav and a gimbal. Painless, I think, is the iNav king. I'm building Ardra Rover with O3. I was riding the Rover this week. Any more info on the VTX with HDMI input you touched on last week? No, I don't. I've not been told anything else. Codecs haven't really been responding to anyone. Has the analog bug been sorted in HDZero goggles yet? I think it's as good as it gets in the new firmware. I was flying HDZero today, actually, getting a bit of footage for something, and not a lot because I bent a prop and I didn't have any spares with me. I had 5 packs and I bent a prop so bad. I crashed and I bent the prop and I straightened it, but I didn't have spares, and it was all over the place. Man, it didn't like it at all. It was vibrating like hell. I tried straightening it out as much as I could, but in the end I was like, nah, this footage is going to be trash. I really bent a prop bad. No, just the prop. When I was spinning it, the motor's fine. It's just one leg of the prop was bent down. I tried pushing it back up, bending it back up. The footage will be here probably. It'll be it'll actually be this one probably. Oh, we don't want the audio. This was after the crash. I think this was after the crash. Let me just have a look. I think you'll see it. Actually, no. Actually, it won't be that one after the crash. It might be this one after the crash. That was me cleaning the camera. I think if this is the one I think it is, I took off, flew, and was like, wow, that's too bad, and landed again. Is it this one? No. Is it this one? It might be this one. Oh, yeah, this is this one. I took off, I flew it. I was like, oh, man, that's bad. You can see it there. I was like, no, that's shocking. Can you see it there? I think do I push it up? I think I div it and just see what it's like. And I was like, no, this is not good. Give it a second. I think it's this one. I was just having a test. Yeah, there, look. Look at the vibration on it. I was like, no, this is bad. I need to bend it some more. And I brought it back in and tried bending the prop again. Tried bending it a bit more. I had a lot of camera angle on it then as well. But yeah, it was like bad. You can see it there. Just as I was pushing the throttle. It's funny you say that, right? HDZero does have really good dynamic range. It really does. And you actually see it here, right? This bit of footage now, in the end, if you watch this, right, I was testing this. And I came into this dark area. Now, if you look here how dark it is, it's really dark, but it doesn't take long for HDZero. So we come in and boom, it's all, look, it's straight, instantly sorted it out. If that was HDZero, sorry, if that was Avatar HD, it would be black. It would be completely black. But yeah, I was actually, it's funny you say that. It was dynamic range testing I was doing on the camera. This is the 90 frames a second camera. So there, you can see, boom, it changes out quickly. You can start to see it break up. But yeah, HDZero does do a good job on the dynamic range, especially in bright sun as well. Like if I took it up, I think, and just had a... No, this is not the Freestyle VTX. But it handles looking at the sun really well. Look at that there. Yeah, they are run-cam cameras, aren't they? This is a race VTX, yes. It does do a nice job. This was the last flight. Yes, it is an Apex. Yeah, it is. It's a run cam camera, isn't it? Yeah, this was this evening. I managed to get out just quickly. I was just doing some tests on something, but I wanted to see what it was like. Time, this was about 7 o'clock tonight, this was. But I think... No, actually, that's not a flight. This might be a flight. I was actually just having a bit of a play with the low latency mode in one of the flight fields, just having a bit of a feel of. This is the 540p mode, just to see how it felt overall with regards to the latency and how it was behaving. And actually looking at how the camera shifts around as well, and just having a feel of how the color was shifting around. I had a bit of a break up there. Same camera. This is just in 540p mode. This is. But it does handle, you can see the sun's behind the clouds at the moment. But this is the 90 frames a second mode. Now, I'll be honest, the 90 frames a second mode does look decent. It really, really does. You know, look, there is plenty of detail in this mode. It's not perfect, but there is plenty of detail in it. You can see the color shift on the camera. The AGC does shift around. You get a very yellowy, or you can see it shift there. But overall, it doesn't look too bad. It's not O3, that's for sure. But it's not terrible. I don't know if you guys can still see me or hear me, but I think my computer's crashed. Now, I don't know if you can hear or see me, because as I've switched modes, the computer seems to have crashed. I don't know if anything is going out. I don't know what is happening. You can see and hear me. Right, okay. No change on your end. Wow. Sorry, I was just getting my phone open to see if I could see on the stream. And I'm just looking at the chat on my side. So when I hit the button, it came over to your side. So I've lost all... Oh, no. Yeah, I've got mouse. But I've got nothing else. We can see you, by the way. What do you do on the phone? On the phone? I don't... Stream is fine. Wow. Okay, so you can see me, but I've lost everything. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah. Well, I think what this will do is pretty much get me to the end of stream. Now, the only thing I don't know what I'm going to do is how I stop recording. So I'm going to stop... Now, I don't know if that's actually stopped recording in the background on OBS. And I don't even know if it's going to take the stream offline either. You've even lost your clothes. So, what I'm going to do, as this is still working, I'm just going to hit live a minute. Yeah, I can see myself. I'm going to have to see. So I'm going to play my phone live, so I'll see if when I press a button, if it stops. But I'm just putting my phone there so I can see. So what I'm going to do is end the stream there. I want to say a thank you to everyone who's watched the stream tonight. A massive thank you to everyone who's donated on the Super Chats. As always, hopefully we'll be back at the same time, same place next week. I am a bit quieter on the channel at the moment. There's a few reasons for that. Don't worry. There's no plans to disappear or nothing. However, if anyone, is there anything you do want to know, please do make sure you're on my Discord server. Come over, say hi. It is free. You don't have to pay for it. As I've said, there is a link to my Patreon in the description, as well as Buy Me a Coffee. I want to say a massive thank you to all of the Patreons. I did put a big update on Patreon the other day, and I just gave a bit of info there as well. But everyone is more than welcome to come over and join on the Discord too. Now, what I'm going to do is now try and hit the off-air button, which should end the stream. What I don't know is if it's going to do it. So we're here and now. Thank you very much. Stay safe, and I will speak to you again